We're going to start off with a look at the economic side of this top story, that is also Ukraine, of course.
Yeah, well, once Ukraine actually does have an interim government, once that is formed, the first priority is probably going to be to tackle the economy, which is really on the verge of collapse. Moscow has frozen its $15 billion assistance package, and it could also revoke a 30% cut in gas prices, which could make life very difficult for much of the Ukrainian population. Now, officials from the US and EU are urging Kiev to look west for more economic aid. The International Monetary Fund says it's standing by to help. Here's Managing Director Christine Lagarde.
So if the Ukrainian authorities were to ask for IMF support, whether it's policy advice, whether it's financial support together with economic reform discussions, obviously we stand ready to do that.
Lagarde was speaking at the G20 meeting in Sydney, where finance ministers pledged to try and increase global growth by a full 2 percentage points over the next 5 years. They also agreed to increase cooperation to combat offshore tax evasion, endorsing a plan for countries to automatically share tax information instead of just when requested. They issued an unusually short, just 2-page-long communiqué outlining their conclusions. And while it didn't include details on how they plan to reach that growth target, they said it will create millions of new jobs and amount to some $2 trillion.
All right, Kate, let's take a look at the markets now. How are they doing today?
We've started off the week pretty rocky, actually, in Asia. Investors don't seem to have been encouraged by that G20 summit. The Nikkei closing down slightly there. The Shanghai Composite dipping around 2% during its trading. This on data showing that new home prices in China stabilized for the first time in 14 months, growing just 9.6% in January. Property stocks like Poly Real Estate and China Merchants Property also stumbled around 7%.
Now let's discover all the latest smartphone and mobile gadgets, and that's at the annual Mobile World Congress, which is opening today in Barcelona.
Yeah, and all eyes are going to be on the keynote address, which will be coming from Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg. It's a sign of just how crucial mobile technology has become to internet giants like Facebook and Google. Elena Casas explains.
The Mobile World Congress isn't usually tech's most glamorous event, but on Monday it welcomes a social media superstar. Facebook co-founder Mark Zuckerberg is to deliver the keynote address, fresh from spending $19 billion on mobile texting app WhatsApp. The internet giant knows it must crack mobile if it is to break into emerging markets. 1.2 billion people in the developing world have mobile data connections, while just 350 million of them have broadband at home. The Congress will also show off plenty of new toys for gadget fans, with wearable tech this year's buzzword.
Among the big changes coming up in the mobile phone industry is the multiplicity of gadgets. We now use smartphones and tablets, but we're about to start using watches, and soon we'll use mobiles attached to our clothing, or etc. In future, mobile phones will come in very different shapes.
And that future is already here. Martian watches receive text messages and link to your smartphone via voice commands. If you worry you're too clumsy for all this cutting-edge kit, Kyocera has a solution for you, a phone that can survive for half an hour in water up to 1 meter deep. Other exhibitors will be showing web-connected versions of everything from toothbrushes to dog collars, meaning the Internet of Things is no longer science fiction. Experts say 26 billion objects will be connected to the Internet by 2020, not including personal computers, smartphones or tablets. That would represent a nearly 30-fold increase from roughly 900 million Internet-connected things in 2009.
All right, take us through the day's other business news now, starting with a major deal in the US that will make life easier for Netflix customers.
Yeah, the TV and movie streaming service has reached an agreement with Comcast, America's largest cable and broadband provider. It will give its customers faster and more reliable access to Netflix content. Netflix has agreed to pay to make sure its TV shows and movies are streamed smoothly to Comcast customers, although they have not disclosed how much they'll be paying.
The French cable firm NUMERICABLE is in talks to buy the mobile operator SFR in a deal that values it at 15 billion euros. Les Echos newspaper said the media group Vivendi has already reached a deal in principle to sell SFR, which has struggled to compete against low-cost competitors like Free.
And the average cost of petrol in the US has risen 12 cents a gallon in just 2 weeks, according to a new survey. Violence in petroleum-producing countries like Venezuela and South Sudan has sent gas prices up to an average $3.41 a gallon. Crude oil prices have also been rising steadily on the stock market, and analysts expect prices to continue their upward climb.
And finally, let's end with what sounds like a very bad hair day for the rapper Nicki Minaj. She's getting sued.
Yeah, well, as you may know, her very original hair pieces, they're sort of flamboyant. They're part of her image, part of her signature. But her former hairstylist says they're not actually that original. They're certainly not her own doing. Terrence Davidson is suing the singer for $30 million, claiming that she sold wigs that he designed under her own name. He also says the rapper's team prevented him from taking part in a reality show, but then didn't follow through with promises to set up another show with the star. He says all this has damaged his reputation and business to the tune of $30 million.
Wow. All right. Thank you very much for that, Kate. That was Kate Moody with all of today's business news. And it's time for web news now, starting with a tour